pledge allegiance to
the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you and welcome to the regular school committee meeting of Monday, February 25th, 2019. This is your reminder that this meeting is being electronically recorded. We're going to start tonight with our spotlight event, which is Wamsutta Middle School, and to make introductions, I'll turn it over to the superintendent, Mr. Sawyer.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to bring up our principal of Wamsutta Middle School.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Thank you for making time for us this evening to share some of the good things that are going on at Wamsutta. I'd like to thank all the families for getting all the students here. We have a good student representation today, and I just want to thank them all for getting their kids out here on this cold night. I have a lot of slides for you, a lot of PowerPoint slides. That's the bad news. The good news is it's mostly pictures, not too heavy. And the other bit of good news is that I won't be doing, hopefully, much of the talking, and you'll hear more directly from the teachers and students. Just to frame it out, we have a lot of good things. I'm going to talk generally very quickly about a bunch of things in student growth and outcomes and school environment and community partnerships. And then we're going to zero in on one thing that we're doing at Wamsutta, and the kids and the teachers will speak to that. So hopefully I know how to work this. I do. As far as student growth and outcomes at Wamsutta, MCAS tells us a great deal. It tells us a lot about our strengths and weaknesses in our curriculum. It tells us the areas and the students on which we need to focus. But it does not tell us everything about student growth at Wamsutta. We have other things that we're really proud of that are outside of the MCAS world. One of the ways we recognize student growth is our National Junior Honor Society. This program was started only 3 years ago, so it's a young tradition. Mr. DiBiasio and Ms. Boyer are mainly responsible, and it has grown each year. Last year was a very large group of 8th graders that got inducted, and we're very, very proud of the scholarship, service, leadership, character, and citizenship these kids show, and we're hoping to have another good year. So by that measure, we're growing young scholars over at Wamsutta. In terms of student growth and outcomes, we also had math counts. Last year, Attleboro has 3 middle schools, as you all know, and a couple different math counts teams. And although individual students have qualified for the state tournament as a team, no Attleboro team had ever qualified as a team until last year. And Ms. Simpkins and the 2018 state qualifiers were the first. This year, we have a couple individual qualifiers, but we are also a wild card, so we have to wait until all the other regional tournaments are done, and they take all their scores, so we're still hoping to qualify this year. The Curiosity Challenge, which is a wonderful program run by part of the Cambridge Science Festival. We've started a tradition, thanks to a lot of our science teachers, about getting kids interested in this Curiosity Challenge program. We've had a number of winners every year. These are last year's winners. The submissions for this year are coming up in a week or so we'll see how we do this year. But these kids get invited to a all-day symposium at MIT on a Sunday in, I think it's in May. But they all report back at what a wonderful experience it is to talk science and with real professionals in the field. One of the other things we're proud of at Wamsutta, as a way to show what kids know and can do, is our student showcase, which we've done a full real one last year. We've got plans to do another one this year. And for that, I'd like to bring up Ms. Stevenson and Ms. Wojcik and 2 of our 8th graders, Zachary Richards and Joe Murphy. Ms. Stevenson will start us off about how we got to where we are with the student showcase, and these gentlemen will tell you a little bit about what they showcased from their work last year. And then Ms. Wojcik will let you know a little bit about what we're planning on this year. So.
Please pardon my use of note cards. I'm really excited about all these initiatives, but my nerves tend to get the better of my working memory, and I don't want to leave anything out or ramble too much. So the Student Showcase grew out of our spring concert and arts night. And as part of our targeted PD last year, the educators were allowed to have time to kind of work on a passion project and do some interdisciplinary work that they've been thinking about for a while. And it made sense of those projects that had a performance assessment component be displayed, and it made further sense to have it part of our showcase night. and it was a tremendous success. It was one of the most well-attended nights I've ever seen at Wamsutta, and it was hugely student-run. There were some 8th graders who debuted their garage band on the landing. It was very cute. The Glee Club sang. The 8th grade science department displayed their roller coasters. Mrs. Dawson, in conjunction with the Audubon Society, turned the 5th grade cluster into a habitat. And the art department got to display our field guides, which I think a few years ago we discussed that we were doing that. The art department also got to premiere our 6th grade stop motion movies. The 7th grade had a voting contest for the best city, because all the classes make a city. And this year it's going to parallel with the district Bridge to Terabithia, a big read. We had crudité and sparkling water, and it was just very fun, and it was a great way to showcase all of our project-based learning. And traditionally, the art department would have students set up and break down the night, and we'd order a bunch of pizzas for dinner, so a lot of the different departments did that last year, and it was just a great deal of our student population setting up and doing it. And they love it, they're engaged, they're excited to share their learning. And the test scores, as we know, are very important, but as an artist, I can speak to the motivation and authenticity of learning behind having a deadline for public display and creating things towards that. And as an educator, it's a moment where you get to see the students work harder than you using, the tools that you've given them. You kind of step back. And as a parent or community member, it's really the stuff that we want to come out and see. So it's just a really positive night. They can speak better to it.
So last year what we presented on a science project was about an owl pellet lab in one of my teachers, Ms. Sarcione's class last year. What the main project was about was dissecting an owl pellet lab. Dissecting an owl pellet and figuring out like if it was a shrew or a mole by figuring out if we opened the owl pellet and we took tweezers and we put out the all the bones that were inside of the owl pellet, and we glued them on paper, and we displayed what it looks like to determine if it was a mole or a shrew. So then we showed it at different parents and children to show them that if they will do it, they would do it next year. And it was actually more better than reading from a book, because books are boring.
Reading the wrong books. So what was it?
It was about like I said, an owl pellet lab, and we had to dissect bones from the owl pellet.
Yes. It was one a mole or a shrew.
Well, I couldn't determine that, unfortunately. And then it was just actually a fun night of showing people what it looked like, and that's about it.
So on Showcase, like, me and Zach were partners for the owl pellet lab, and like, we had to take the bones out of the pellet carefully because they could break easily, and we had, like what he said, we had to like glue it on a poster board and like label like what they are, and it's kind of fun because we get to know what owls eat, and like it was just fun. Yeah.
You guys can stay here for a minute. Okay. Ms. Boyce, you. So we're working on for this year? Oh, no.
As
sorry.
part of the big read last year, Mrs. Medeiros, the other art teacher, Mrs. Wojcik, and myself designed a lesson that extended the reading and ELA of an article about street art in Oaxaca, which I believe was part of the big read. Yeah. Since the art department already had a street art unit in place, it very organically extended into a printmaking project where students created multiple images from block prints about a social issue that they were very passionate about. And all the students added their prints to like a brick wall, which was just kind of like a big rollout. Yeah, it's right up there. That was displayed at the student showcase.
So in ELA class, the students actually wrote artist statements to accompany the block prints. And this past summer, Ms. Stevenson and our inclusion specialist, Mrs. Dunlay, and I attended a service learning conference where we discovered that actually what we had created was a service learning project. So aiming to extend upon that this year, we launched the same project, but we asked the students to choose a social issue from the project that they could all kind of agree that we could tackle to do some actual service learning with. They chose bullying as this topic, so we're starting to dig into that this year. Service learning is student-written and designed projects aiming to create real change and or affect the community. The Hope Club, which is here tonight, happens to be an example of this service learning as well that will also address this bullying initiative. They will talk more about that in a few moments. But it also fit into this year's district professional development about forming performance assessments. This spring, the students will design their own initiatives to address cruelty and ultimately improve our school community. And some of these projects will be unveiled at the Student Showcase this year.
Thank you, guys. Before I dismiss it, do you guys have any questions? I should have thrown that out at the beginning. At any point, you can throw questions at me or anything.
Mr. Quinn?
Is there anything that you're looking forward to showcasing this year? Anything's good, you're excited. We're still under development.
Under development.
So, all right, we'll look forward to it. Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
In terms of school environment, again, the data we get to the state that turns into our accountability ratings, this data is important to us. We have a good sense that the disproportionality of our discipline statistics and the amount of class time missed due to disciplinary action are both getting better over the past couple of years. And our attendance continues to be state average, but we are still, we work every day to try to improve both those statistics. But that alone, that part of the accountability rating, really doesn't give you a whole picture of our school culture. And we have a couple different things that I think speak to better of it. Our Students of the Month, I think this is December, I think. This is, we do this monthly. Thankfully we get PTO support for the certificates that you can see and the little pins that say student number 1 that you can't see. They get munchkins with me. Their teachers nominate between 4 to 6 kids per grade level, kids who meet or exceed our expectations around our kind of core values around respect, ownership, and effort. And we also have a couple categories for those who engage, challenge, and inspire either themselves or the community at large. This has been going on for almost 2 years now, and I think it's generated a lot of good support in the building. I think it's made some kids who maybe felt underappreciated for doing the right thing quietly, give them a little time in the sun, and I can tell you that the Facebook post that I do monthly on this one beats all other Facebook posts I do by a significant margin. So the Students of the Month is something we keep active. The Pbis initiatives, we were one of the last schools in the district to do Pbis training. We're not quite fully trained. Our last training for our whole team is in about a month. We do have all of our school-wide rubrics in place. This fall, when the kids got there, in all grade levels, we had kind of explicit instructions on the behaviors we expect to see in all our common areas, and then we infused all those kind of common language into the classroom expectations. Again, that's about unifying expectations across the building and really providing clarity for kids and explicit instruction on what we expect. There is also the kind of incentive portion of Pbis in addition to the school-wide rubrics. And as an incentive, we had a spirit rally. It was the first time that I had been involved in a grades 5 through 8 whole school activity. I think that the middle school takes great pains at times to keep the 5th graders away from the 8th graders. And that has benefits, we want 5th grades kind of elementary school and 8th grades almost high school, and it's good to have a little bit of a barrier between them, but when we do that, we lose a little of the whole school community. So we hadn't done this, certainly in my tenure, in the past 3.5 years, and asking around to some veterans, it had been a long time before that since we had done it. So we had the grade levels compete against each other, and it was an absolute blast. The kids were so well behaved. So we're planning another one of these in the spring. The MCIEA dashboard is something that we discuss at ILT and school council and faculty meetings, and I'm pretty sure you guys have gone through the dashboard a little bit. You know, it was interesting to me when I introduced these dashboards and shared them with my ILT, my PTO, and my school council. The parents and the community members, when they started clicking around, they instantly went to these two topics about is this a safe and nurturing environment in the school, and do students feel physically and emotionally safe at school? And I'm glad they did, because that's two of our better ratings. You know, in the dark green category, that's where you want to be, and in the kind of checked hash, is that a hash? The green hash, that's kind of utopia, where you know you can't expect to be, and I think it speaks well of the staff and the environment they've created that most of our kids, and this is all from student data, and this is 2 years of data, that the kids feel that it is a safe academic environment, and generally speaking, although it's not every kid every day, and that's the goal, but most of the time, a huge majority of our kids feel really safe at school, and I think that speaks to our school environment as well. For the school environment spotlight, I asked members of the Hope Club to join us. This is again Ms. Stevenson to come back up, and I'd like her to be joined by 8th grade students Samantha Campbell, Kira Davis, Diana Leon, and Emma Smith.
So Hope Club originated from about 2 years ago from a student's expression for a need to have some inclusive education concerning marginalized groups. Mr. Connor suggested that as we have a student-run group, and it just so happened I already had a crew that was meeting for lunch for several years, and they represented a variety of minority groups, and we regularly engaged in dialogues about school culture and just what was going on in the news and inclusion and climate sort of things. So it was sort of already in place, and they're the group that formed themselves into the Hope Club. It's an acronym. It stands for Help Obtain Peer Equality. And up to date, this group of students has done some seriously weighty work with language, semantic inversion, peer-to-peer education, and testimonials regarding the treatment of others. Their efforts dovetail in very nicely with performance assessment, service learning, and even the district initiatives beyond brain-based learning. And more importantly, their efforts are just truly remarkable. So I'll let them speak.
Last year, the Hope Club was made up of just 7th and 8th grade. We all decided that the biggest problem in the school was language, more specifically racist and homophobic phrases or slurs. The Hope Club put together presentations including skits, history behind the language, and peer testimonials written by members who had been targeted by those words. This was presented to the entire 7th and 8th grades by the Hope Club.
So a lot like last year, Mr. Connor and Ms. Stevenson are giving the 8th graders a lot of freedom with the topics we choose and how we want to present them. But unlike last year, instead of just 7th and 8th graders, we also opened it up to the younger grades 6th and 5th. Right now, we're working on an 8th grade presentation. The idea is general human cruelty. With that, there are a lot of moving parts. We have one group working on a slideshow about the different aspects, social and neurological, of why adolescents are cruel to each other. And once we have that all solidified and presented to the 8th grade, we're going to start working with the younger grades to do sort of a similar project with their chosen topics. We're kind of gonna guide them through the steps to prepare them to continue in club in years later when we're gone in high school. Not gone.
So we originally joined Hope Club because there was a racial issue going on in our grade.
But after going through our testimonials, we were proud to hear that things had changed within the grades.
And we think that we really made a positive impact with our school community.
Although there is always room for improvement.
We every time we meet, we work really hard to try to make a difference.
Being with everyone has given us a chance to be a part of something bigger than ourselves, have a voice, and stand up for what we believe in.
Thank you so much, guys. Do you guys have any questions?
Mr. Gaddis?
Just a quick comment. You often hear students, or you often hear adults talk about students aren't ready for the real world, but that doesn't get more real world than what you guys are dealing with. So I commend you for your efforts. Keep it up. Thank you.
And our last topic tonight is family and community. We are continuing to try to improve partnerships with family and community. I could have a lot of slides on this. I've just done one. So the first thing I'd want to say for Wamsutta is the first thanks we'd have to give is to the staff and the management of that allows the staff to come to us from Sensata. It is a long-running partnership. They do our robotics program. There are several Sensata staff people there every week doing the robotics club, and they've maintained this effort from what I can guess, it's over a decade now. So I think they were the first kind of community partners that Wamsutta had, and although we're not talking about them tonight, they are still one of our most cherished partners. The work they do for kids in the robotics club, and they've done things for girls in science and young boys in science. They continue to impress us with their dedication and how these people are engineers. They seem to find the ones that really have a knack to talk with kids in a really effective way. We have a wonderful partnership with the Y. For the past 2 years, we've had a Reach and Rise program, which is a kind of a young mentoring program that is accessed by about 15 or so kids last year and another dozen this year. It's a multi-week thing, and again, I could have done a whole presentation on that, but I didn't want to leave them out. The students themselves, establish connections with the community through our student council, and we have something run by Miss Ramos, the 8th grade classroom by committee, they call it. And it's basically the kids gather around an hour a week and decide to work on something that they're interested in. And these efforts have aided community organizations like the Hebron Food Pantry. That's a longtime partner of ours. But new ones, that's student-driven. If anybody's been to Wamsutta lately, we have the 2 clothing bins outside for Planet Aid. They gave a very nice cash donations through their fundraising to the Attleboro Animal Shelter last year, and we're going to continue that work this year. But the partnership I wanted to focus on is our Junior Conservation Commission program. I'd first like to recognize Nick Wiley, who is right here. He is from the Attleboro Conservation Commission. Lauren Gordon is from the Mass Audubon Society. Chris Hitchner from Mass Audubon is our point person. He's the person who deals with our kids. He deserves a special thanks. He couldn't be here tonight, but we're thankful that Lauren showed to accept our thanks from Wamsutta to the Audubon Society. We also have Nancy Yates from Lakeville, who is one of a former conservation commissioner herself. And to talk about the program, I'd like to bring up Miss Dawson, 6th grade students Isla Thompson and Lana Foster, talking about what they did last year, and 5th grade students Andrew Lopes and Jeremy O'Hara. Do we have enough? 1, 2. Do you want my seat? No?
Good afternoon. It's nice to be here. The conservation program has always been very important to me. The Attleboro Junior Conservation Commissioners Program is intrinsically entwined with the future of Attleboro. So let me explain. It is a program designed to have 5th grade students become the leaders of the 21st century. By using place-based education, this program is teaching students the awareness of the complex diversity and resources that in the town that surrounds them. They are becoming part of their communities. They're learning to care, and with that awareness and of the relationship with nature, how they will be making informed decisions for the future of their town. They are joined together through knowledge and experiences inside the classrooms and in natural settings on the campus of Wamsutta and at Oak Knolls Audubon Sanctuary. They're learning about an ecosystem that goes back to the glacial age. Wamsutta is the home to a natural vernal pond, moraines, and huge pudding stone rocks, left here as the glaciers receded. One of the most exciting moments I had at the vernal pool was reaching in with a big net and pulling out a bunch of salamander eggs. Now, I've seen a lot of salamander eggs, but these were special. They glowed iridescent green. I said, this isn't right. This isn't right. So I took it over to Chris, and Chris, with his great knowledge, said to me, oh, that's brand new science. We're learning right now, today, in science, that salamander eggs do photosynthesis. Now that's a crossover between plant and animal. That's brand new, and it's right here in Wamsuta's backyard. So it's a pretty big discovery. So we were, this expertise that Chris and Lauren and Nancy and Nick bring to this program is so valuable. And the team of teachers that I work with at Wamsuta that help to make this program possible is a priceless experience. In a series of 7 class explorations throughout the school year, the 5th grade students learn from a team of experts doing the work of scientists, artists, and mathematicians, using relevant, real-life concepts. They are doing civics, solving problems with hands-on knowledge that are wrapped in their experiences. These hometown lessons raise awareness of how we all have choices and that these choices have consequences. The JCC program has instilled awareness and respect in each new junior conservation commissioner, how to care for all of the natural resources available in their community of Attleboro, how to walk the fine line of living with nature without losing its diverse preciousness. This program was in the planning stage early in 2015. Ideas and concepts had to be framed with the Massachusetts standards. Our team came together. The Conservation Commissioner, Nick Wiley, the Audubon, Chris Hitchner, and Lauren Gordon, and the Attleboro schools were represented by myself. We had to try to bring the ideas into a reality with a common shared goal, hoping to bring the students the sense of awe of nature's diversity and the importance of how nature shapes itself for survival. Wamsuta is embracing this program for the 3rd year in a row. We were lucky to have this program for 2 years. Originally, the JCC program was funded by money set aside from the Conservation Commission of Attleboro, and the goal was to have this program provided for all 3 middle schools and all of their 5th graders. That's the 450 junior conservation commissioners in 1 year. This year, however, 2018, was a tough year for Wamsuta. There was not enough funds to reach more than 1 school at a time. The program was moved to Coelho. This is a triumph for Attleboro as more students are aware of their community ecosystems and resources. However, the loss to Wamsuta was hard to accept. With the help of Oak Knoll, Chris, and Lauren, we were able to secure a grant of $5,000 through the Mass Cultural Council to keep this year going at Wamsuta. We were then faced with the need for our civics portions to be redesigned to fit the program, since Nick was full-time volunteer basically over at Coelho. So that we thought of Nancy Yates. Nancy has held many civic hats, including Conservation Commissioner, Selectman, and is now a land management agent for the town of Lakeville. She's called the Eagle Lady, as she has found the first eagle egg in our area and has continued to work with eagles for over 20 years. The Junior Conservation Commissioners Program has been extremely successful and is now spreading across the state. The template of community involvement and the design of the lessons are being the inspiration for Foxborough with Moose Hill, the George Martin Elementary in Seekonk, Taunton, and Tewksbury, as well as other towns. I was deeply honored and fortunate to be the Audubon's Conservation Teacher of the Year in 2018. This brought the program more recognition. More is on the way. This program is being presented by Nick Wiley and Chris Hitchner at the upcoming annual Massachusetts Association of Commissioners Conservation Commission. It is the students, however, that make this program as successful as it is. Their enthusiasm and respect for the lessons carry the program. All students come away with their own exciting discoveries. Each year we learn more. I would like to introduce the special girls that came in last year and are now in 6th grade, Isla Thompson and Lana Foster. They raised over $200 at last year's showcase to bring back the program to Wamsuta. The 6th grade, however, didn't bring back the entire program for their grade, but they will have an extension class with the Oak Knoll representatives. And the two fifth graders, Andrew Lopes and Jeremy O'Hara, will share some of the experiences that they've had this year and whose next classes will be to get ready to go outside and how to learn to be life scientists and nature artists.
Hello, my name is Isla Thompson. I'm a 6th grader at Wamsutta Middle School. I participated in the Junior Conservation Commissioner program last year in 5th grade. JCC taught me many important lessons about wetland, biology, and ecology. Most kids don't want to sit in a classroom and just read books all day. JCC gives students hands-on opportunities to learn about many different wetland habitats that exist right outside the walls of our own school. I enjoyed so many of these lessons, but several of them were the most memorable. At the beginning of the program, we were introduced to live snakes, turtles, stick bugs, various beetles, and a few different animal furs. Next, during the outdoor vernal pool field study, the Oak Knoll instructor brought us into the forest behind Wamsutta, where we located square pieces of wood called coverboards. These coverboards help protect amphibians by giving them shelter and eventually becoming their homes. We were able to turn over these coverboards and observe creatures such as worms, spiders, and insects. One of my favorite activities was when we were given nets and buckets of water so that we could explore these vernal pools, and allowed us to take closer observation of animals such as fairy shrimp, their eggs, salamanders, tadpoles, frogs, crayfish, and many more. I enjoyed JCC so much that some of my friends and I organized and hosted a bake sale at the Student Showcase Night to raise money so that we'd be able to participate in a similar hands-on learning program in 6th grade. In conclusion, Junior Conservation Commission taught me how important it is to eliminate pollution and protect our forests, as this will help stabilize the environment and wetland habitats. I now have a stronger sense of responsibility to take care of nature, help it to continue to grow and stay alive. I believe it is very important for every student in Attleboro to be educated about wetlands, because after all, we are the future, so we can make a difference. We are the difference.
I'm Lana Foster. I'm also a 6th grade student. I love JCC. It was a fun learning place. To help me learn, I need fun. JCC did this. Not only were they fun, but they were kind. No one wants a mean old grouchy teacher. When JCC was with us, the room around me was joyful. Everyone was really happy to be working with JCC. When we went outside, we had so much fun. We found salamanders. Everyone thought they were awesome. This was a very merry, awesome, and fun activity to have going at Wamsutta Middle School. We all enjoyed it. Thank you.
JCC helped me realize what is happening to the world. In JCC, Nancy Yeats teaches us about animals, especially eagles. Nancy loves eagles. Eagles were almost extinct once. Luckily, they were saved. And we have Chris Hitchener. He would come in and bring live animals, and we would get to touch them. He talks about the watersheds and wetlands and why it's important. Without wetland, we would get lots of floods. It's like a sponge that sucks up water. This is a good and fun way of learning because we get to touch animals and look at models instead of just doing tests. Thank you, JCC, for helping me opening my eyes to what's happening to the world.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jeremy O'Hara, and I'm in the 5th grade at Wamsutta Middle School. I would like to share with you how we are learning about groundwater and wetlands. The first thing we did in class was take some powder that was dyed different colors. One color was red. We used the red one as lawn fertilizer. When we put it down on the model of the land around a watershed, we then used spray bottles with the water and made it rain. The fertilizer then spread it into other people's yards, and eventually it flowed into the wetlands. When the fertilizer reaches the wetlands, it then affects the fish and other living creatures. We spoke about how the eagles will not have enough food to survive and will eventually die. This is one of the several things we have learned about through our junior conservation program.
Thank you, guys.
I think elements of the Hope Club and the Conservation Commission and then all the other projects are going to be featured in some form or another at our Student Showcase Night, June 5th, 6th, did we pick a date? 6th? Don't quote me on that, we think it's the 6th. And we had a great turnout last year, and we're hoping for an even better one this year, and you know, that when you walk around the school that night, you get a sense of the size and scope of how much we're doing and how much the kids are doing to try to you know, really own their learning and do something that's relevant and meaningful to them. So if you have any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them. Otherwise,
Any questions? Mr. Quinn?
Just 2 comments, and I've said it before at these spotlights, but I think it's worth repeating. Man, the art department in this, I mean, if you look across the theme of the spotlights, the art department is always front and center about all of the innovative projects, so kudos to the art department. It's really incredible. But secondly, when for those of us who were on the strategic planning initiative and we were trying to imagine what does it look like in practice, if we were successful, what would it look like? And just I think we have 2 really concrete examples tonight. The Junior Conservation Commission, where, what does it look like when the community partners with educators who know their kids, content experts who have like a deep depth of knowledge, and then we're not just doing science appreciation, we're like doing science. I think this is a model of, if, as we look to our North Star, like what does school look like on a regular basis, this is it. And then hopefully, if we can get the Foundation Budget Review Commission in place, this is not hopefully something we're dependent on grants for, that this is something that we can fund and we're not hopefully having to have bake sales in order to make it possible. So, kudos for starting this off. But also there's the civic element with the Hope Club. And, Mr. Geddes, you talked about creating real change within communities and the kids taking action to improve like their small community, which has a ripple effect on the larger community. So I think, we've got science and civics going hand in hand here, and, the kids are all right, as they say. So keep it up. You're setting a good example for all of us. So thanks for all the efforts, teachers and students, and thanks.
Mr. Larson?
No, I love seeing the kids getting together outside of the classroom, working on different projects, and really seeing the kids get outside and working on the ground in the environment around them, I think is really fantastic. So thank you for doing that.
it's the Conservation Commission, when they're doing their field work, I mean, that's, I have a friend who works at the Harvard Forest, and he's doing the same cover board research on salamanders that they are. They're pulling up the cover boards, they're taking pictures, they're counting, they're nestling them back to not disturb the, the habitat, and, they've got their spreadsheets and whatnot. It's a wonderful program. We're lucky to have it. We're lucky to have had it for 3 years, and we'll certainly make every effort to continue it going forward.
Mr. Geddes?
Just to go off of what Mr. Quinn mentioned at the beginning about the common thread being the arts in all of these spotlights, I think also another common thread is the collaboration of arts and just about every other subject. The intermingling of all the different curriculums. For years we've heard that in theory we should be making connections between subjects, and that's what's going to make education that much stronger. And to see it happening on a regular basis in all of our schools, and the experiential component that Mr. Larson mentioned, it's fantastic. Keep it up. Thank you, educators. Thank you, students, too.
Yeah.
Great job, guys.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah. You're in science, right?
I'm not sure how much I know.
Do you know financial literacy?
next on the agenda tonight, we have our Student Advisory Council around Attleboro update. Ms. Larson?
So, at the elementary schools, there is kindergarten information night coming up on March 5th. It'll actually be held at all of the elementary schools, so the families can go to the school in their district that their children will be attending. And then Willett will have a book fair from March 4th through the 8th. As we just heard about, Msba is having their grade 5 junior conservation commission on March 8th. And then at Coelho, there is a mandatory parent meeting for the Washington, D.C. trip coming up. That'll be on March 11th. And then at the high school, the Opportunities Fair is on February 27th. That's when all the students can see colleges, jobs, military branches. They all come to the school. We walk around the cafeterias and get to talk to all of them and kind of see what the plans are for after high school. On March 2nd, the Drama Club is having their state festival, the preliminary level, and it's actually open to the public. You can go and watch all of the shows. So we wish them luck with that. March 7th is junior parent night. That's just when information is presented about senior year and what to expect with all of that. And varsity jacket night will be March 11th. We also have another showcase coming up. It'll be Blue Steam Ahead. Instead of just the high school students, though, it'll actually be K through 12 plus presenting. Anything from science, math, English, art, all of the subjects will be represented, so that should be fun. And then there was also recently an exhibit at the Attleboro Arts Museum for Ray Conniff. He graduated in 1934, and his family is actually sharing his Grammy Awards at the museum. The choir from the high school performed, and then there was actually a luncheon with his family that the culinary program put on. And then for SAC update, we are meeting with SERSAC again on April 2nd.
Thank you. Next on our agenda, we have Superintendents Report. Mr. Sawyer?
Thank you, Chairman. I have a couple of things to update the committee on this evening. First, just wanted to give you a budget update, and let you all know that we continue to stand in pretty much the same position we've been hovering at since late November, early December. That's, in a way, good news, that things are maintaining, and that many of the variables that could trend negatively for us have held pretty steady, and that we're also making good progress on claiming the $100,000 in savings that we set out to as part of our agreement with the city. So we're making good progress on that. One storm that we had a couple weeks back, certainly cut into that a little bit, but there's still good savings to be had there. And we're also doing our best to make measured decisions about staffing in the district as a way to save money as well. But I wanted to assure everyone that the positions that are required, both for the needs of educated kids and for compliance and regulations, those positions are being filled regularly. So while we do have a handful of positions that we're holding on right now, we've already filled 9.5 positions since January 1st. So it's not like we have kids who don't have a teacher because we're trying to save money. That's not what we're doing. But by holding off on some positions, which we can live without for a little bit, we are making some savings there as well. I wanted to update you on our ongoing discussion about mental health in the district. We have a meeting scheduled soon with local providers that'll help bring in the expertise that I spoke of at our last meeting. And we're also applying for a pretty significant grant from the state to help provide access to mental health services. I think it's important to note that it is a requirement of that grant that we have a partner with a mental health provider to, again, reinforce this point that I was making last time, that as a school district, we are not a mental health provider. That's not our mission. That's not what we're qualified to do. But we do need to make sure that we have the services in place so that students that are having issues are identified and connected with appropriate services. We had a few facility issues that I want to report on. The first is that we have a new steam leak in A building. It's towards the end of A building. It's somewhere between the first and second floor, which implies we haven't found the exact source yet, which we'd have to rip the walls out to do, which is why we have not done that. There was some hope that we would be able to make it to April to fix it, but that does not seem likely anymore. So we're going to have to come up with a plan to address it. We did spend $10,000 over vacation to secure and clean up the mess. And now we're going to have to spend more money to fix the problem, especially considering that we're going to have to shut down the heat for the building to address it during the winter, which is something we try not to do, but the nature of this problem is going to require that we come up with a plan to do that. The other thing I wanted to notify you is that the wind today did have a little bit of an effect. We had the power going on and off at Studley and Brennan throughout the afternoon. I don't think we ever lost it for a prolonged period. Mr. Furtado, what was the longest?
Probably around a half an hour.
This continues to be an ongoing issue for these two schools. It seems like anytime there's a strong wind, we're losing power at those particular buildings. We're going to be looking into ways that we can address this with National Grid, who aren't known for being responsive to anybody's concerns. But given that these are schools, we're hoping that working with the city, we can perhaps get a hold of somebody who will listen to the fact that there's some sort of issue here that needs to be addressed for the good of the children of Attleboro. We also had some roof damage at Msba today that needs to be addressed. We have to close down one of the entrances until that work is completed. So it's a windy day. We didn't get out unscathed, but nothing too significant. I just wanted to mention a couple of events. The first is that the ELC Open House is tomorrow evening. That's at Thatcher from 6 to 7:30. This is a great opportunity for people to learn about our preschool programming in the district. And I wanted to echo Ms. Larson's comments about Kindergarten Information Night, which is Tuesday, March 5th at 6:30, and that's in all 5 elementary schools, so parents should report to the one that is their home district. Ms. Regan, did you want to add anything else about K Info Night?
So we're hoping that it doesn't have to be rescheduled 3 times like it did last year.
It was a rough March.
But parents, please come with any questions that you have. The principals and teachers on staff will be able to answer any questions that they have, and they'll be able to get a glimpse of what happens on a day in kindergarten. And also we have other events planned for the remainder of this year to help with the transition to kindergarten.
And if you don't happen to know which school you'd be assigned to based on where you live, where might I find that information?
So there's a street listing that is on our website. If you click on that, you'll be able to find out which your home school is.
Thank you.
All right, and then finally, just a quick MSBA update. We are nearing the 60% completion mark, which there'll be a submission to MSBA for their review. This is an important milestone in the process, and we will be making that submission this month. So that project progresses. I also thought I should mention, it seems that at any time news comes out about the project, and at 60%, it's still a fluid situation, and things are still being determined. And so when news comes out about these various things, I sometimes see on social media some speculation that any news is going to be a clear sign of how this whole project is going to be a boondoggle. I think I should clarify a couple quick things as a result of all that. The first is that the process that the MSBA uses now was a sort of a direct consequence of the problems the old process used to create. So, we have 2 middle schools, Wamsutta and Brennan, that leaked the day we moved in, right? A clear indication that there were problems with those projects. The new process doesn't allow those outcomes. And it also it successfully avoids the historic outcome of projects being overrun, being cost overruns and end up costing the city more than was planned. So I think part of the sticker shock that we experienced as a community when we learned how much this project was going to cost was in fact because they force us through a process that avoids unrealistic estimates, that forces us to do things the right way so that the building doesn't leak on the first day. And those kinds of concerns are already built into how much the community has signed up to pay. And so at some point within about the next year, after the bidding process, the city will negotiate with the contractor and arrive at a guaranteed maximum price for the project. And by the way, that price will be less than the project has already been approved for. So that number then becomes the liability number for the contractor. So I think it's important for the community to understand that this project will not go over budget unless we as a community choose to do things farther into the process that causes those kinds of complications, which really isn't allowed by the process. So we're pretty much safe from these concerns, which again I see aired understandably quite often, but I just wanted to clear up that this project is not going to be experiencing those kinds of issues that we have experienced as a community in the past.
Thank you. That report?
That concludes my report.
Any questions? No? Thank you, Mr. Sawyer. Next on the agenda, we have approval of our minutes from our February 11th, 2019 meeting. The minutes were circulated with your materials. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Consent agenda. Motion to accept a donation in the amount of $1,000 from the Feinstein Foundation to the Wamsutta Gifts donation line to be used for educational purposes.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to accept a donation in the amount of $3,000 from J.S. Lim Foundation to be broken down as follows: $2,000 to the Scholarship Revolving Fund and $1,000 to the Gifts donation line.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
My only question is what school?
Yeah, where's it going?
District-wide or is it the high school?
It's a high school. It's a high
High
school
school?
donation.
High school?
Okay.
High school.
Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to approve a day field trip proposal for 140 grade 7 students to attend Canopy Lake Park on June 3rd, 2019.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
That concludes the consent agenda tonight. Subcommittee reports. Ms. Scales?
Just to make note that the policies that were tabled on the February 11th meeting will be removed and go into immediate effect.
Thank you. That concludes our subcommittee reports tonight. Open forum, is there anyone who would like to address the committee at open forum? Seeing no one, I'll close open forum and entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
With them moving the utilities on the high school project, is there